Now, one question about Harry Kane to both of you guys. He's on 100 grand a week. He signed a big long contract, I think a 5-year contract, in the middle of last season, not too long ago. And it was, I think it's a 5-year contract. His father is his agent. He's on 100 grand a week, which is roughly what Paul Pogba would be paying in tax.
Yeah.
You can't really keep guys on that.
Well,
how are they going to keep him?
Well, I think it shows you what can happen, Eamon, if the clubs... I mean, everybody talks about these greedy so-and-so, the players greedy so-and-so. I think the Spurs situation, I think, is a perfect example of the old days. When a club has a chance to take advantage of a player, and I think he's quite an innocent lad and his father is they took advantage of him. They did the same with Dele Alli.
Yeah.
I mean, Levy was in the paper a couple of weeks ago. I wouldn't take 150 for Dele Alli.
Million.
Yeah. Right? But he's paying him 50 or 60 grand a week.
63. It's amazing.
Now, Harry Kane is definitely one of the top players. Harry Kane should be, by today's market, should be on at least 200 grand a week.
Yeah.
He should be at least double him. And it's only in recent times, actually, that they've increased his wages from 60 grand a week to 100.
Yeah.
You know, and it's outrageous, but it shows you how greedy the clubs can be when you get an opportunity to do so.
Daniel Levy is the executive director, and executive is the important word there, so he's making all the decisions at Spurs. Liam, this question of the pay scale and the sort of system they have at Spurs at the moment where they keep the wages down, that's reminiscent of Arsenal as well, isn't it? In the past, when they had really top players, they tried to keep a wage cap, as it were. It's very, very hard to do, isn't it?
It is. Well, you have to cut your cloth accordingly, Eamon. You know, they haven't got the benefactor of a country such as Abu Dhabi or Qatar, or an Abramovich, or the business turnover of sort of things like Manchester United. So they have to cut their cloth accordingly. And I wouldn't agree with John that it's unfair. You know, if you haven't got the money to pay.
Excuse me, Liam, can I interrupt you there? It's very unfair to treat Harry Kane, who's definitely worth more than 60 grand a week in today's market and by Spurs standards, and Dele Alli, when they have an opportunity to pay him the 100 eventually. Now, I know that every club has to cut the cloth, but if you're taking advantage, which I think they have, of Dele Alli and Harry Kane, and I think it's totally wrong.
But John, I think when they signed those particular contracts, you know, they would have been happy, dare I say, to receive 60 grand a week, and in Harry Kane's case, 100 grand a week. They didn't have to sign the contract.
Yes, but would you not agree that Harry Kane has been worth at least 100 grand a week for the last 2 or 3 years?
If you were coming from Millwall, you probably would be happy with 100.
No, but this is happy with 100 quid. This is taking advantage of somebody. Of course, they signed the contract, and the father is his agent. I think Harry Kane is a simple lad, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's a lovely lad. I think that's taking advantage of the players.
Well,
I mean, if you can say Dele Alli is worth 100,
let's retrace our steps. Let's go back to when Harry Kane burst on the scene. What is it? About 3 years ago.
It was 4 years.
He was probably earning about 35 grand a week. Okay, so Daniel Levy comes in and says, Harry, you know, you've been brilliant. We're going to give you 100 grand a week. From 35, you're going up to 100 grand a week.
You didn't do that.
You're a Spurs. Let me finish. Yeah. You're a Spurs kid. You've grown up with this. We want you to stay. You're the symbol of the club. So we're going to triple your wages from 35 grand to 120 grand a week. Okay. Now Harry Kane has the option to say, "Well, no, I don't want to sign for 100 grand a week. I'm going to be better than 100 grand a week."
Well, is he a simple lad? But hang on, but that didn't happen, Liam. What you were saying didn't happen, right? When he was on his 30... No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, when he was on his 35 grand, he went to 50 grand a week. And it's only in the last few months that he's increased it to 100.
No, I think he signed his contract about a year ago, John.
No. He signed a contract. No, on the 50 grand a week, he signed a 4-year contract, which has gone back 18 months or so. And he increased it from the 50 to 100 in recent times.
Yeah, it was about 6 months ago, Liam. The point I'm making.
Okay, well, 6 months ago, he still had the option to say no. I won't sign. You know,
Liam, I think
I'll see my contract out.
Look, he's not the brightest lad, and he's not an experienced lad, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He's a lovely lad. He's a terrific player. I'm saying to you, when you're talking to Levy knows the prices of players better than anybody else and the wages of players. And I think he was unfair and taking advantage of the lad to get him to sign for that type of money. He's in a different league. Kane coming to proposals and dealings and that. He's in a different league totally to Levy.
Okay, I now have, thanks to my friend Andrew, the facts. He signed this contract in December 2016. So Liam is right about the timeline of when he signed the contract. It's more than a few months ago, I think, isn't it?
Well, it's last 16 months.
Well, it's nearly 9 months ago.
It's 9 months ago. No, we're not too wrong. Now, just a point on that. It was Danny Rose who brought the Spurs wage structure into the public domain. He gave an interview to The Sun about 3 or 4 weeks ago in which he said that he's on 60 grand. He's an England international. He's one of the best fullbacks actually around. He's a very, very good player. He happens to be injured at the moment. He was the one who broke the omerta and said, look, this is wrong. I know I should be earning more. And that brought the whole question of Spurs' wage structure and Levy's determination to keep it, suppressed into the public domain. Now, Liam, they have two of the best central defenders in Europe. They have Danny Rose, who's outstanding. They've Dele Alli, who's widely regarded as a player, who can go on and make a real impression in the game. They have Harry Kane. Now, a guy called Kyle Walker, who was playing with all those lads until the summer when he signed for Manchester City, and probably doubled or trebled his wages. It's impossible, is it not, to keep the genie in the bottle. The genie's out of the bottle now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm not denying that, but that's their modus operandi. That's the way the club works. Yeah. That's the way the club has to work, right, according to the owners and according to Daniel Levy. So put that to one side. The genie in the bottle is definitely, the cork is becoming looser and looser because the way these guys are playing, they'll want the way, and the Spurs fans, and there are plenty out there, must know that to be the case. They must know it. Yes. How can we possibly keep these players unless there's a sale of the club, and which could very well happen in this day. Yes. If there's a sale of the club and other owners come in and say, no, Harry Kane, 250 grand a week, Dele Alli, 200 grand a week. All this can happen. But if that doesn't happen and the way they work doesn't change, all these players will be leaving Spurs over the next few seasons.
Yeah, and because it's probably true, Liam, that you, as at Arsenal and Arsenal fans and people in the club have seen it happen at Arsenal as well. To some extent, players want.
Yeah, we've seen it happen with Adebayor, with Robin van Persie. The only time it hasn't happened is this season, with Sanchez.
Yeah, Fabregas at one point.
Fabregas
was another we had to let go. Henry was another we had to let go. They weren't at the end. They had a year to go on the contracts. They said they weren't going to sign. So, the business decision is yourselves. The only time it hasn't happened was this year with Ozil, and I don't think anybody wanted him. And the other thing was the Sanchez deal with Manchester City didn't happen because we couldn't get Lamar from Monaco. We couldn't do that deal. And that's the only reason it didn't happen. Yeah. Now, we've got two big players, and I know you want to talk about Arsenal at the moment. We've got two big players. They've got less than 12 months to run their contract. In December the 1st, they can speak to anybody they want to speak to. And this is what can happen. But you have to say about Spurs, they've been well run in that regard. They haven't let it happen, and they've sold their players for top dollar. Whether it was Gareth Bale or whether it was Kyle Walker, they've sold their players for top dollar.
Modric is another.
Arsenal situation, I think there's more than two players, but the two big stars, so-called big stars, Sanchez and Ozil, their contracts up at the end of the season, and that's not a good thing for Arsenal. It's not. It's a difficult situation for Arsenal. Whereas Daniel Levy hasn't let that happen at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Right, now there's one other point about all of this, that it makes it impossible.
Well, Tottenham are getting plenty of time now, Eamon. That emailer won't be complaining anymore.
Well, they are, and there's just one last point I'd want to make, Liam, to both you and John. I'll make it to John first. The wage suppression is one thing. It also means, John, that if Pochettino wants to go out and strengthen the squad, he's going to be shopping in the pound shop rather than Harrods.
Well, he's going to find it very, very hard to attract players, if the players, and it's very hard.
And they do need to strengthen, as Liam said. The depth of their squad is an issue.
Yeah, and he also has the problem, as Liam said as well, quite rightly, to keep the players he has.
Yeah.
Never mind the players coming in, because I think this big centre half, what's his name?
Vertonghen.
No,
Alderweireld.
He was complaining about his wages.
He was, yeah, absolutely. They all are now.
See, I think the way the game is nowadays, as you said, I think it's inevitable. It's going to blow up somewhere along the line. And I take Liam's point that Levi is doing his business.
Yeah.
I'm making a sort of a personal point that this is not, although he's doing best for Spurs, you've got to be reasonable too to the players like Harry Kane and that. If he doesn't, then he's going to pay the price by the players leaving at some stage. Yeah,
and I mean, if for example, Paul Pogba at United is earning 300 grand a week, Lukaku up around the same in the same area, so something has to give.